Chapter 3: Big Tech. By now, most viewers will be familiar with the well-publicized problems of social media. It's purposefully addictive, produces jealousy, insecurity, and depression in some people, and the big socials sell your data for a profit.
Why? Why these nerds who are tech-savvy tech geniuses, why did they create the technology so we human beings become silly little addicts, obedient little retards who cannot use their brain anymore? Our body doesn't function anymore like it used to. Why do they make the technology like that? I thought they were geniuses. Can't they make it any other way? Is this the only way? Let's find out more.
Despite the growing awareness of these problems, companies like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube are still some of the most widely used platforms in the world. Billions of people.
Why are those platforms the most used ones? Let's find out, bro.
Download these apps and use them to stay informed about the world, or so they believe. While these issues are absolutely worrisome, they are not the only issues we should be concerned about. To understand the role social media plays in the pyramid of power, we need to understand the origins of social media. More specifically, we need to understand the origins of the big tech giants behind social media. The big tech companies are the largest and most dominant companies in the information technology industry of the United States, namely Amazon, Apple, Google, Facebook, and Microsoft. Alternatively, there are other labels such as FANG, which refers to the 5 prominent American tech companies: Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google, or Alphabet Inc., Google's parent company. The point is that these companies dominate information technology in most of the world and shape the direction of the various markets they operate in. Amazon dominates the e-commerce online sales market, as well as AI smart assistants and smart speakers. Apple and Google share a monopoly on cell phones. Google, of course, claims the title of leading online search engine for most of the world, as well as top video sharing with YouTube.
Never use Google. Except you if you absolutely have to. Brave. Search everything on Brave. Or if there's something better.
And top online mapping and navigation with Google Maps. Microsoft dominates the operating systems market, shares the cloud computing market with Amazon, and is highly influential in the video game industry via their Xbox system. Facebook is known for being one of the top 3 companies in digital advertising, which they gain through their social networks. They also dominate image sharing with Instagram and messaging with WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger. In fact, big tech's growth in wealth and influence over the last decade has surpassed the wealth and influence of the big media companies we covered in Chapter 2. So where did these companies come from, and are they influencing our world for ill or for good? The basic narrative we are told is that the big tech companies were started by brilliant men, mostly in California, in the area now commonly known as Silicon Valley. Through their hard work and determination, these companies were...
It's all about their hard work and dedication. Grind and shine. Hustle City. 24/7. Manifest that shit. Just like John D. Rockefeller.
Able to rise from the garages and college dorms to become the giants we know them as today. There's just one problem. This version of events is cartoonish at best and an outright deception at worst.
Yes, bro. Nobody looks into this shit. If you understand the history of these companies, how they came to be, a lot of puzzle pieces that don't make much sense start to click.
Important to understand that nearly every big tech tool you use today was funded, in part, by the US intelligence community and supported in various ways by the US government itself. The rise of the big tech companies is not a fairy tale of free market success, but rather a dark and disturbing story of corporate welfare and deep ties to the intelligence community. In fact, most of the digital tools you use, including cell phones, GPS, and the internet itself, started out as tools for the military.
What? Military? I thought it was just guys in the basement, nerds in the basement. Hard work and dedication, they were good at freaking coding. What? What is this?
These tools were designed by the US Department of Defense under the direction of the Defense Advanced Research.
Boom, bitch. Look into DARPA. And like I said, a lot of the puzzle pieces start to come together like the Masonic hand signs we drawn up in here. Research, DARPA. A lot of things start to make sense, not only the big thing.
Research Project Agency, or DARPA, the Big Tech Intelligence Complex. What we know as the Internet, or the World Wide Web, was first developed by the military as the ARPANET. One of the best sources for the true origins of big tech is the book Surveillance Valley by researcher Yasha Levine. In his groundbreaking book, Levine outlines the role that the military and intelligence apparatus played in advancing these tools from being used exclusively by the military to being used by millions of people around the world.
Back then, people understood what this technology was about. Going back to as early as 1969, which is the first year that the ARPANET was turned on. So the ARPANET was turned on in 1969. That same year, there was huge protest in MIT against the ARPANET. And there were these pamphlets and booklets packed.
Back then, back in the 60s, human beings were a little bit more ready to freaking fight for their rights. Guess why we ain't anymore? It's because of the tech, bro. It destroys our dopamine. And a bunch of other shit.
Passed out on campus, talking about the ARPANET as the beginning of this surveillance network that was going to allow what they called Washington's policemen to better manage the world and to control the world. And so it was obvious to people almost half a century ago what this network was, and we've sort of lost it. It had been really successfully rebranded starting in the 1980s.
It's all about freaking marketing, bro. It's all about propaganda. Who has the best propaganda? Who has the best freaking lying, aka marketing, wins. Or if you have a really good propaganda for the truth, also known as nature, then we might win. But they own everything. Do you know how hard it is to get the message of nature, or even this message, out in these guys' platforms? It's pretty hard. They don't want to lose that dominance.
1990s into something utopian, whereas it wasn't that before.
In 2017, a former director of the National Science Foundation shed more light when he published an article exploring the true founding of Google. Quote, "The research arms of the CIA and NSA hoped that the best computer science minds in academia could identify what they called birds of a feather. Just as geese fly together in large V-shapes, or flocks of sparrows make sudden movements together in harmony, they predicted that like-minded groups of humans would move together online. Their research aim was to track digital fingerprints inside the rapidly expanding global information network, which was then known as the World Wide Web. Could an entire world of digital information be organized so that requests humans made inside such a network might be tracked and sorted? Could their queries be linked and ranked in order of importance? Could birds of a feather be identified inside this sea of information so that communities and groups could be tracked in an organized way?" Jeff Nesbitt goes on to describe how Sergey Brin and Larry Page, the ostensible founders of Google, were originally funded through, quote, "through an unclassified, highly compartmentalized program that was managed for the CIA and the NSA by large military and intelligence
Look at the patents.
contractors. It was called the Massive Digital Data Systems Project. Eventually, the research by Brin and Page under these grants became the heart of Google's search engine. Nesbitt writes, quote, "The intelligence community, however, saw a slightly different benefit in their research. Could the network be organized so efficiently that individual users could be uniquely identified and tracked?" In 2014, more details emerged regarding the relationship between Sergey Brin, former Google executive Eric Schmidt, and the National Security Agency. A Freedom of Information Act request revealed that Brin and Schmidt were on a first-name basis with then NSA Chief General Keith Alexander. Additionally, Google was part of a, quote, "secretive government initiative known as the Enduring Security Framework," and this initiative involved Silicon Valley partnering with the Pentagon and US intelligence community to share information at network speed. The connections between Google and the intelligence firms that have spent decades spying on the public, infiltrating the public school system, and establishment media also involve the CIA's venture capital firm, In-Q-Tel. For example, we know that the software that would become Google Earth was born out of technology originally developed by the company Keyhole Incorporated, which itself had a close relationship with the US intelligence community. However, Google was not the only big tech firm who maintained a relationship with In-Q-Tel. Facebook executives also had close ties to CIA venture capital firm In-Q-Tel. Journalist James Corbett reports.
Publicly, In-Q-Tel markets itself as an innovative way to leverage the power of the private sector by identifying key emerging technologies and providing companies with the funding to bring those technologies to market. In reality, however, what In-Q-Tel represents is a dangerous blurring of the lines between the public and private sectors, in a way that makes it difficult to tell where the American intelligence community ends and the IT sector begins. Two of the names that come up most often in connection with In-Q-Tel, however, need no introduction: Google and Facebook. The publicly available record on the Facebook In-Q-Tel connection is tenuous. Facebook received $12.7 million in venture capital from Accel, whose manager, James Breyer, now sits on their board. He was formerly the chairman of the National Venture Capital Association, whose board included Gilman Louie, then the CEO of In-Q-Tel. The connection is indirect, but the suggestion of CIA involvement with Facebook, however tangential, is disturbing in the light of Facebook's history of violating the privacy of its users.
Around the time Facebook was launched, a similarly themed government project was coming to an end. LifeLog was a project of the Information Processing Techniques Office of DARPA, designed, quote, to be able to trace the threads of an individual's life in terms of events, states, and relationships, with the ability to take in all of a subject's experiences, from phone numbers dialed and email messages viewed to every breath taken, steps made, and place gone. USA Today reported that, quote, cameras and microphones would capture what the user sees or hears. Sensors would record what he or she feels. Global positioning satellites would log every movement. Biomedical sensors would monitor vital signs. Emails, instant messages, web-based transactions, telephone calls, and voicemails would all be stored. Mail and faxes would be scanned. Links to every radio and television broadcast heard and every newspaper, magazine, book, website, or database seen would be recorded. DARPA contractors stated that LifeLog software, quote, will be able to find meaningful patterns in the timetable to infer the user's routines, habits, and relationships with other people, organizations, places, and objects. Ultimately, the program was abandoned because of surveillance fears. On February 4, 2004, Wired magazine reported that the Pentagon was abandoning the LifeLog project. Ironically, this is the exact day that Mark Zuckerberg launched his first iteration of Facebook. LifeLog's creator Douglas Gage recently told Motherboard he feels that in many ways, Facebook has accomplished the goals of LifeLog. Quote, I think that Facebook is the real face of pseudo-LifeLog at this point. I generally avoid using Facebook, only occasionally logging in to see what everyone is up to, and I have never liked anything. Another important note
Never use these platforms except YouTube if you watch best science videos. Think about how many people just fucking champion for these. How many people are addicted to these platforms? Oh man, they got us good. They got us real good by their balls and tits.
Regarding social media and intelligence agencies relates to the 2013 revelations by Edward Snowden. According to one of the documents leaked by Edward Snowden, the British government maintains software for online persona management. The British government communications headquarters operates an elite unit known as the Joint Threat Research Intelligence Group. The documents outline tactics employed by the agency, including ways to manipulate public opinion, understand human thinking and behavior, and encourage conformity. One of the reports from 2011 outlines J-Trig's tactics, including uploading YouTube videos containing persuasive communications, starting Facebook groups and Twitter accounts, and creating fake online personalities and supporters to, quote, discredit, promote distrust, dissuade, deter, delay, or disrupt. The unit used social media campaigns to encourage and foster obedience and conformity. The British intelligence and the US intelligence community both desire to promote obedience and conformity within the public. They use social media to keep the public propagandized,
What this documentary misses is also the EMF aspects, health aspects. It's not only the platforms, but it is the tech itself, the blue light. Never have the blue light on, have some kind of blockers. And if you wanna watch things, and if you have to watch, no, you don't have to watch blue light, but if you use these things, always have your windows open, like I have right now, or be outside, which is impossible for me right now, doing this video for you guys, or not impossible, but hard. And also the RF radio frequencies, the electromagnetic frequencies, these things do. All these things play together to make you the obedient idiot we have become in 2025.
Distracted, misinformed, and fighting amongst themselves. We could go on to detail the intelligence connections and partnerships between Facebook, Apple, Google, and Amazon, but the point is that the origins of the big tech firms which control information technology are much different from what is promoted in the mainstream. These companies have directly and indirectly benefited from the financial investments of the US military and intelligence sectors. They have also shown a willingness to share user data with law enforcement. These big tech firms are also furthering the all-pervasive surveillance state. Not only are Google, Facebook, Microsoft, Apple, and Amazon tracking your habits on and offline, they are profiting from that knowledge. With the growth of AI smart assistants and speakers like Amazon Echo, Google's Nest, Apple's Siri, and other devices, millions of people around the world are welcoming the surveillance state into their home.
Yes, because our brains don't work anymore. DARPA freaking blocked Robert O. Baker's work. Go check out those interviews with Jack Kruse. He explains it so well. But that's the reason why people are welcoming these products, because their brains don't work anymore. They're like, yes, take me to the prison. And they just take it to the tech world, which is a prison. Like, you can take my information and out. Because we don't know about how we regenerate our brains, how we make our brains work. This thing is a good start. That thing is even better.
Amazon is well known for their online marketplace, but less people are aware that the big tech firm has been developing facial recognition software called Rekognition. Amazon has marketed the facial recognition tools to police departments in the United States, claiming that the software will allow real-time surveillance using body cameras. In 2018, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, the American Civil Liberties Union, Human Rights Watch, the Freedom of the Press Foundation, and nearly 40 other organizations filed a lawsuit demanding that Amazon cease providing law enforcement access to surveillance technology. The EFF stated, Amazon has been heavily marketing this tool, called Rekognition, to law enforcement, and it's already being used by agencies in Florida and Oregon. This system affords the government vast and dangerous surveillance powers, and it poses a threat to the privacy and freedom of communities across the country. That includes many of Amazon's own customers, who represent more than 75% of US online consumers. In 2020, Amazon was reportedly talking with the police department from Jackson, Mississippi, to connect their Ring doorbell cameras to a 24-hour surveillance center operated by the police. The Jackson Police Surveillance Center would conduct a 45-day pilot program to live stream the security cameras of participating residents, including a direct line to residents' Amazon Ring doorbell cameras. By June 2020, Amazon announced it was implementing a one-year moratorium on police use of Rekognition in response to the George Floyd protests. However, in February 2021, documents revealed that the Los Angeles Police Department had already used the Ring doorbell cameras to monitor activists. The Big Tech Military-Industrial Complex. In 2020, the public became aware of the true power wielded by the big tech companies that run the popular social media platforms. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Google, and Amazon all sought to downrank, shadow ban, delete, and/or ban information that went against the accepted narratives for COVID-19.
Rona. Yet we still use these platforms. And like, go check out the video a couple days ago. 87% took at least one of these things. So their critical thinking, they cannot see through this shit. Like I said, their brains don't work. They cannot see through this shit. Although it's so obvious. Now they have kinda turn up this sometimes that the slap of the wrist or cancelled or shadow banning is harder sometimes in the Rona times because the shots were essential in their plans. With the tech with the shot, that's gonna destroy you fast, boy. That's gonna get you downstairs fast. So they had to do it back then, but now they're gonna just let it off a little bit again. Now it's a little bit more chill again. Elon Musk came, made X freaking free speech again or whatever. They're using also their plan with the anti-Semitism and all that shit.
The 2020 election, and basically any other topic deemed controversial. While many people chose to frame this attack on free expression as an attack on conservatives or the right wing, the reality is that prominent left-wing pages and channels also suffered the same fate because they also committed the cardinal sin of social media, asking questions and making...
Think about how they do that. Like they just remove a bunch of shit. Think about what they do with history books. Think about how much whitewashing there is in the history books. A lot.
Claims not accepted by the so-called authorities. In short, if you ask too many questions and did not parrot the mainstream right or left-wing positions, it's highly likely you will find yourself demonetized or banned altogether. Some folks incorrectly argue that big tech is made up of private companies which have the freedom to decide what goes on their platforms. This argument ignores the wealth of evidence indicating the close relationship between big tech and US intelligence, as well as the seed funding received by many of the companies. Essentially, these companies would not be as monolithic as they are without the support of the government.
Check out the
They
patents.
are hardly a representation of free market economics. Which brings us to the final point. These big tech firms often serve the purpose of reinforcing a particular narrative that is beneficial to the US government and intelligence community. It's no mistake that the pages and channels which have been removed have often been those which expose the US war machine, the violence of police, and overall, the lies of the US government. Although most of the public was unaware, the attacks on independent journalism and free voices began in earnest immediately after the election of Donald Trump in November 2016. The media began promoting story after story, claiming that government insiders had evidence that the Russians interfered with the US elections by propagating fake news stories that favored Trump and attacked Hillary Clinton. The Washington Post and other mouthpieces for the establishment ran with a report from the organization Prop or Not, which claimed to identify websites that were spreading fake news and possibly working as Russian propagandists. The list contained many well-known American alternative media sites, including Activist Post, Mint Press News, the Free Thought Project, and the Anti-Media. Although Trump popularized the fake news meme, it was very quickly used to demonize alternative and independent media who did not fall in line with the Russian narrative. The rise of the fake news meme had immediate repercussions for the alternative media. Many sites lost access to Google Ads for revenue generation, others were shadow banned on Facebook and Twitter, while others were cut off from payment processors like PayPal and Patreon. The relationship between the military-industrial complex and Facebook was made even more clear in May 2008.
Why all the biggest ones were like that? All the most popular sites all together were like that.
When Facebook announced a new partnership with the Atlantic Council, a think tank which officially claims to provide a forum for international political, business, and intellectual leaders. The social media giant said the partnership was aimed at preventing Facebook from, quote, being abused during elections. The press release promoted Facebook's effort to fight fake news by using artificial intelligence, as well as working with outside experts and governments. The Atlantic Council of the United States was established in 1961 to bolster support for international relations. Although not officially connected to the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, the Atlantic Council has spent decades promoting causes and issues which are beneficial to NATO member states. In addition, The Atlantic Council is a member of the Atlantic Treaty Association, an umbrella organization which acts as a network facilitator in the Euro-Atlantic and beyond. The ATA works similarly to the Atlantic Council, bringing together political leaders, academics, military officials, journalists, and diplomats to promote values that are favorable to the NATO member states. Officially, ATA is independent of NATO, but the line between the two is razor thin. Essentially, the Atlantic Council is a think tank which can offer companies or nation states access to military officials, politicians, journalists, and diplomats to help them develop a plan to implement their strategy or vision. These strategies often involve getting NATO governments or industry insiders to make decisions they might not have made without a visit from the Atlantic Council team. This allows individuals or nations to push forth their ideas under the cover of hiring what appears to be a public relations agency, but what is actually selling access to high-profile individuals with power to affect public policy. Everyone from George H.W. Bush to Bill Clinton have spoken at or attended council events. Clearly, despite what Facebook says, this partnership will further align the goals of Facebook with the Western military-industrial complex. This was made evident in October 2018 when Facebook announced that they were unpublishing or purging over 500 pages and 200 accounts who were accused of spreading political spam. Several of these pages and writers were also removed from Twitter on the same day. In a blog post, Facebook wrote, "Today we're removing 559 pages and 251 accounts that have consistently broken our rules against spam and coordinated inauthentic behavior." Facebook states that the people behind this alleged spam, quote, create networks of pages using fake accounts or multiple accounts with the same name and post the same clickbait posts in dozens of Facebook groups. This action by Facebook became known as the Purge of 2018 and was only the first of many to come. With Facebook and other big tech firms developing a revolving door relationship between the military-industrial complex, it's highly likely that anti-establishment voices will continue to be stifled. Now that we understand the big tech firms are cartels of information technology with deep ties to the US intelligence community and military who sell their users' data and manipulate their emotions, it's time to figure out what we are going to do about these problems.
Go outside. Throw this tech in the trash. Don't take part of it. Create better solutions. Create new internet that DARPA doesn't dominate. Just freaking go tribal. Form tight communities that are tied into the nature, just like back in the days. The whole times back in the days, those people are always the happiest. They're content, fulfilled, just with their tribes, the nature. They don't need any of this shit. They don't have any addictions. They're healthy AF. Anyway, hard work and dedication will get you to the top, especially if industrial military complex is behind your race. See ya.